Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Hello, listeners. I'm the host for this episode of the SpotOn podcast, where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn series. SpotOn has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They have served everyone from large chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to SpotOn.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses get return on investment, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through custom done-for-you podcast. If you have a B2B business and want to build a great relationship with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there is no better way to do it than through podcast and content marketing. To learn more, go to risemedia.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Today's guest for the show is Ben Riegsecker. Ben is a diverse background. He began his career by starting a residential and commercial construction company. Then, after selling the business, he managed a nonprofit for 3 years. After that, he bought his first restaurant, which was 5 years ago. Now his company owns 2 restaurants, a motel, a historic inn, 2 grocery stores, and a hardware store. Ben is most passionate about working with and mentoring young leaders. His guiding principle is to provide a safe place for people to be challenged and to reach their full potential. Welcome to the podcast, Ben.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. It's wonderful to have you as a guest. So you've had quite a journey here. Can you talk a little bit about the beginning and how it all started?
Yeah, really what started was, if you take you all the way back to my high school years, and I didn't know what my problem was, but I couldn't learn in school. I was terrible at it. And looking back, I definitely have a bad case of dyslexia. So what I ended up doing is I was terrible at it. I don't tell a lot of people this, but I just dropped out of school and I started working in construction. But I did know how to work. I worked really hard. I was a good worker. And 18 years old, I was the foreman of the crew, and things kept going. In 2008 hit, obviously the construction kind of stopped. So I bought equipment from where I worked at the employer and started my own business, and just kind of took off. And we grew into a lot of different things. We did commercial roofing, we did residential housing, had several different crews going, and it was a journey. I really enjoyed that. But what the thing that I think that I identified in those early years was I was out there trying to prove to the world that I was successful. I failed at school, so I had this drive that wasn't very healthy. It affected my family and my it's not fun when you're trying to prove that I'm somebody.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the early years. And through that process of finding my identity, I ended up selling the business and refocused for 3 years on a nonprofit mission. And so that's kind of what got me going there, I guess, my first 10, 12 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, owning your own business clearly takes a lot of drive,
Right.
but it also takes a ton of time.
Right.
And we only have so much time in every day. So you got to make sacrifices someplace, and finding that right balance is a real challenge. And it sounds like you've found it.
Yeah. So that's been a journey for me. And I've been so getting through that process of life was painful. It's hard on my marriage, my family, but I feel like I've really, really got my priorities in check. And to be honest, I'm having a whole lot more fun now.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on people, making a difference in my community. And and it's not near stressful. If it's not about me, at the end of the day, I'm going to do the best I possibly can. But your identity is not in my work. And if you can separate that, it's been very healthy for us.
Oh, that's wonderful. Those are some great thoughts there. And you said that very well. So you've worked in like several very diverse industries, right? I mean, construction versus a restaurant versus a historic inn.
Mm-hmm.
So was there like a master plan for that, or were you just sort of opportunistic as those things came along?
Yeah, I think it was, to be honest, I never really was intrigued with the restaurant business. We worked construction, so I'd go out to eat all the time and I'd count all these people in the bag. And I'm like, how in the world can you make any money doing a restaurant? And I had these people call me, and that was when we were involved in our mission. And they said, hey, we got this restaurant in. And I said, I'm not interested. Obviously, it didn't interest me. But after them pursuing me, I said, well, we'll check it out. So I got some friends that knew restaurants and said, hey, I'm willing to give this a try. And they gave me some advice on what to offer, to get this thing started. And I couldn't believe we made the deal happen. And it seemed like it was a long shot. And I just remember when I found out I was buying a restaurant, I just was like, what am I doing? Like, I have no experience. Like, absolutely. I don't cook.
Right. The experience you have is eating in a restaurant.
Right. So it was interesting. What I did was, what do you do? I was probably 33, 34 years old. Yeah, 5 years ago, 34 years old. And I walk in here one day and you own a restaurant, and it's like everybody's looking at you. So the first day, what I did, I literally went down and I washed dishes all day. I just thought I'm going to just start down here at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
Cleaning. And then we had some meetings with all the team, and we got everybody and just started that. You just got to start at the bottom, and you got to work. I'm the first one to dig in. I mean, I'm not going to be afraid to get my hands dirty, and they know that. And I think that was how do you win the respect of the team when you're brand new? And
right.
I believe it's hard work and just leading with an example. And so it didn't take too long there to get the support. I mean, I had vision walking into a new place, had probably 60, 70 employees, and I'm like, we're going to lose half of them. What am I going to do? But it actually worked out. We have a bakery. We bake all our stuff from scratch down in the lower level of the restaurant. And it's been a journey.
Wow.
Learning how to make it work.
And now you also have an inn and a hotel. Mm-hmm. So how did you get into that business?
Well, we have a hotel, and that's like across the street from the restaurant. And then the building that the restaurant is in was built in 1840s. So we have historic rooms up above with the clawfoot tub and the fireplace. And a lot of people like that historic feeling. So we kind of had that. A lot of that was in place when I bought it. We just are making it better with whether it's the motel, remodeling the rooms and keeping things up. But that wasn't, I would say the motel was probably the easiest part of the whole thing. It's easier to manage. You just got, you got the cleaning staff and the basic stuff. But the restaurant industry, when it comes to your food cost and your labor and trying to figure out when they've been doing it, like just an example, like people that had it before us, the staff could eat whatever they wanted without any. And I remember the one, I just kept track of the one kid. He's a dishwasher, and his 4-hour shift, he ate $48 worth of food. It was like, and it was just not managed that well. So there was all this stuff going on, and just going in there and saying, hey guys, I really appreciate it, but you're going to have to pay 50% of your food.
Yeah. And
just putting some guidelines in place, just because it was, it wasn't making any money, obviously, when we bought it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple of hardware stores now too?
Yeah. So what we ended up doing is we bought a grocery store. That's probably a couple of years ago. And we used that. That worked out really well because we started buying all our stuff for the restaurants from ourselves, if you could say. So we do 2 deliveries a week that come in here.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in the middle of that, we bought this, there was a shopping center getting run down just up the road from us. And it's just kind of a God thing how that all worked out. But we ended up buying the shopping center, and it had a hardware in there. The guy was going out of business, and I didn't want to lose the store. Is the thing. I'm familiar with that, obviously, from the construction side. It wasn't a big deal, but so we ended up buying this 17,000 square foot hardware store just to keep it. I just didn't want to lose it. And then it had a supermarket at the one end of the plot shopping center. So we put another grocery store in there. So it's just kind of, I don't know, it's weird opportunity. I don't really go looking for this stuff. It just, stuff comes up.
Yeah.
And taking advantage of that and then figuring out how to do it with getting the right people.
Yeah. So have you had sort of a mentor or someone who's sort of been guiding you through this, or, someone that you look up to, that books you read, or how do you sort of get that knowledge, right, and guidance to help you make these decisions?
Yeah. So when I first came here, it's my wife grew up in this area, but it was a brand new area. So here you are, brand new guy, have no idea. You just moved in, and within 2 days you own we moved in 2 days before we purchased this place. And, so after about 6 months, 8 months, I was like, it was just a lonely job. Obviously you're at the top. Who do you talk to? Who do you even trust?
Yeah, exactly.
So I found a mentor group. It's called Convene. They started in California, but it's just a group of guys that get together once a month. And then the leader comes out here and has an hour session with you every month. I feel like that was a pretty big deal. Just to have a safe environment where you can, let's say I'm ready to make a business deal. I'll take it to this team and there might be a doctor, and there might be, just a vast variety of leaders. And I'll say, hey guys, this is the situation I'm dealing with this month. What do you think? And having that that's just powerful.
Yeah.
To have that kind of, just to have them guys around the table and saying, Ben, this is the direction I think I would go. So that's probably been the biggest thing. I do a lot of reading, and I'm doing I do a lot of stuff like that just to see what's going on out there. But a lot of it is just my passion is I want to make a difference in my community and work and make leaders with these guys that don't have a chance. There's a lot of needs out there. Yeah. And so I look at these businesses as a tool to invest in people. And most leaders I talk to, they are like, man, it's such a pain. We can't hire. We can't, and it's tough. Let's be real. But that is what energizes me, because that is what I want to do. I want to be in there, I guess you could say, in the weeds with these people, because that's what I'm passionate about. So that makes it a lot easier for me, because to start a new restaurant or to start a market, we just opened it in May, hired, I think it was like 30 some people. How do you find them people? But we had 180 applicants, and we're in a small town. So I felt like it was and then we invest in them. You start building a reputation of these guys aren't all that bad to work for. Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you located?
Western Maryland. It's called Grantsville, Maryland. It's right along Interstate 68. Okay. Maryland has a little strip in between West Virginia and PA. We're right in that it's in the mountains of Maryland.
Yeah. So that's pretty rural.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Town.
Yeah. So this kind of leadership group that you talked about that you get together with, they take a lot of different forms, and there's many of them around the country. And you're not the first person that has really talked greatly about the wonderful guidance that you've received from one of those. So that's really a good recommendation from you as well, that people should check those things out.
And I feel like, so I actually put a board over, it's my CPA and a good mentor over top of the business. And I feel like you put these guys in place, but then they don't do you any good if you don't listen to them.
Right.
It's easy for me just to go do stuff, but I have learned I don't do it unless we're all on the same team. Even if it's me as the owner, I could do whatever I wanted, but to be successful, it's so important to have these guys. But then the key is to actually listen to their advice.
Yeah. So I think just to make sure I understood, so you also have sort of a board of directors that you've put in place for your business. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 good guys and my wife.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah,
That's great.
it really helps.
Yeah. So, what sort of, if you reflect back, I know one thing I want to talk about, like restaurants and motels have
Mm-hmm.
sort of what's often called the front of the house and the back of the house,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
right? And they take different personalities to work in them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're interviewing someone and looking
Mm-hmm.
for someone, how do you sort of think about, oh, this would be a wonderful person for the front of the house, or this would be a great for the back of the house?
Yeah. So one thing I do that's probably a little different is I do a lot of the interviews, but I don't hire anybody without. Like the other couple of weeks ago, I had a dishwasher, and he didn't seem like a great, didn't have a job. And he's 21, the whole. But so I got two of the cooks, and I said, "Hey, I'm bringing this guy in. You guys are going to interview him." And I wasn't even in on the interview. And you let me know if you want to hire him. So a lot of the times I try to get them pretty involved. So it's not me just bringing, and it's amazing what that does, because now it's not me just bringing some dude in that they're like, why did he hire this guy?
Right. They're also invested in it.
Yeah. So I never hire unless it's a top tier employee, unless they give me the go ahead. And I feel like that. So then they'll say, Ben, I don't think they're going to be good. And I probably knew that, but I'll let them say, hey, they might be really good as a waitress or as a food runner. So a lot of I kind of let the team build itself. So that makes it so it's not just me saying, hey, is this going to be a good fit for the front of the house? So creating that atmosphere. And part of the reason I do that is I want them to learn what it's like on the other side. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's the funniest little thing, but they think that's the coolest thing. They got to sit in an interview. And so that's going back to trying to create a leader. Yeah. And then I talk a little bit about customer service. Like, how do you handle that? Like, how do we be exceptional? How do we try to make it the best experience? I try to have my waitresses, they're supposed to give a dessert away just to whoever they want to on a shift. So like, I'm trying to teach them how it feels to make somebody's day, to bless somebody. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them have never experienced that. So it's like, no, I want you to make sure that somebody, I don't care who it is, maybe cheer somebody up today.
Yeah.
And that has been a big helpful thing.
And in those two examples you gave, with the cooks interviewing mm-hmm. someone mm-hmm. and with the waitresses being able to make a decision, mm-hmm. you're empowering them to make decisions, right? It's very powerful, because normally they have jobs where they get to make no decisions.
Yeah. And it is a little scary. Like this winter, we had a snowstorm and there was people here. One of the hostesses, she let them in, and it was fine. She knows I would do this, but she did something that I was like, she had a bunch of people in here when we were closed and gave them all the food and just said, hey, don't worry about paying anything. We'll take care of it, which I do that. But part of me in my mind, I'm like, oh, like that seemed like a lot, but I don't say anything because I don't want them to not do it. There's times I'll coach them and say, hey, next time, just, this might be something to think about. But that's a big thing as a leader, is let them make some mistakes. Let them have that. Because as long as the numbers at the end of the month are okay, then who cares?
Yeah.
So that's been interesting.
So if you look out, if you look into your crystal ball, if you have one, mm-hmm. and look out 3 to 5 years in the future, what do you see for yourself, Ben?
I don't know. I always say, like, I don't know what God has for me. I look at opportunities that come up, and I didn't expect to buy a shopping center.
Yeah.
But like, I can't really say I have some big plan that I want to have 5, 6 restaurants. I don't. I have a lot of people that want us to put different restaurants in Morgantown, West Virginia. It's like an hour away, and different things. But unless the opportunity comes, it's hard. I'm the kind of guy that I kind of, as the doors open, I go through them.
Yes.
Like, it's hard for me to say, hey, we're going to have a goal. We're going to do X amount of restaurants and that's just not how I work. I look at the opportunities that come, and then we analyze this as they come and then decide. So it's not easy for me to say, hey, this is what the 5-year plan looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think we continue to grow. I'm a firm believer. If we're not growing, then we're not, if we're just maintaining, it's not healthy. So we're going to be growing. I just don't know exactly in what.
Yeah. So if you reflect now, by going back to
Sure.
your construction company to where you are today, was there one or several kind of big turning points in your life that sort of you talked a little bit about it earlier about you know did the light come on and say, gee, I need to change things, or here's something I want to do now? Was there a particular incident that triggered that, or was it just sort of a gradual sort of progression?
I knew I wasn't happy in them early years. I was living the American dream. I had a lot of projects going, and you read, and it's all about growing, but it wasn't fulfilling. So I had that hole, and I was just like, why am I doing this every morning? I'm just pushing, and obviously my wife, it was tough. I was stressing her out. I was stressing my family because I was just feeding this ego thing that I was trying to fulfill, and it was impossible. So I got to that point where I had this opportunity. I had some guys call me and say, hey, we want you to run this organization for us. And I was like, you know what? It was the hardest thing to do. It was the worst financial business decision I could have done. But I knew it was now or never. I just had this feeling, if I don't get out of this and refocus. And obviously looking back, if people are at that point, it seemed foolish. I had some of my sales guys, Ben, this is the worst decision you could make. And it was, I'm going to be honest. When you look at the numbers, it was crazy. But here I am. I'm enjoying life. It was a foolish decision, but it's what I had to do. And looking back, I wouldn't change a thing.
So this was what you're talking about is selling the construction company and then going to run this not-for-profit.
Yes.
And was it a mission-driven not-for-profit?
Yes. So it was just to mix up so I went from construction. This was healthcare. So it was running a big nursing home, facility where 160, 170 employees and then we would run all the money we would send overseas to different organizations. And it was awesome because I got to travel. I was in India and Pakistan, all these places that I got to go see where our money, and it was definitely a big stretching experience for me as well. But that's what I went from the construction to this.
Wow. So that the money, that the profits from that went overseas to help other people in other countries. Yes.
So we were very instrumental. We'd start whatever the needs were, mission schools. We're pretty involved in that kind of thing.
Well, that's great. So Ben, I want to start wrapping this up. Is there something that I have not asked you that you'd like to share with the audience and our listeners?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I think you're hearing this is just like, I look at at the country, and there's a lot of things that we could talk about negatively, but I believe it's up to us as leaders. And if we don't step up to the plate, and it's what I hear all the time, these kids don't know how to work. They just are on their phones. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what we got to work with. And if we're not going to embrace it and say, how are we going to make a difference? It looks bleak. But if we can say, hey, you know what, God's given us gifts, and this is one of mine in leadership, I'm going to take it, and we're going to do everything we can to help these youth, these people that need help. And that's the difference. I just had one of my, I have a one-to-one with my staff, and I had a kid, he's 20, this is his first job, it's 2 years. He's been on here for 2 years. He said, Ben, this has been the best 2 years of my life. And we're giving these guys purpose, that is the secret, I believe. And we use our businesses as tools to make a difference in our community. And that's my passion. I know there's a lot of people out there doing it, but instead of sticking their head in the sand saying, you know what, this is the worst 2 years, and it has been. I mean, I've faced everything everyone else has, and it's been brutal. But at the end of the day, we're here because of these people, and we care about them. It puts a whole new attitude on your face. And I think that makes the difference, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, very well said. That's a great way to wrap this up, Ben. Hey, Ben, thank you very much for being on the show. You've been a wonderful, wonderful guest. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Okay.
Well, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Take care.
Yep, you too. See you.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.